It seems like almost every day someone tells me that the PVC ductwork in my workshop is dangerous if it's not grounded. Eventually the static electricity buildup will create a spark and all the dust inside will become a raging inferno. They're so certain of it because someone told them online, so it must be true. But is it? I'm not asking if dust is flammable. I know it can be. There are verifiable stories of dust fires at large mills and grain elevators. But have you ever met anyone who has actually experienced a static ignited dust fire in ungrounded PVC ductwork in a non-industrial woodworking shop? Or did someone tell you about someone who heard that someone knew someone who may have had some sort of fire that may or may not have been from the PVC ducts? Believe it or not, they keep records of that sort of thing. You can ask your local fire inspector if he'll look it up for you. I really wanted to know. So instead of going by the internet experts, I tracked down a real expert. Rod Cole is an MIT scientist with degrees in mathematics and physics, but he specializes in weather research, so he knows a bit about static electricity. And it turns out he couldn't find a single recorded case of such a fire, and neither could the fire officials that he contacted about it. Neither could he find a confirmed case among all the stories he read online. No photos, no news stories to back it up, and believe me, a dust explosion in Grandpa's garage would make the news. Does this lack of verifiable cases mean that none exist anywhere? Of course not. But Dr. Cole wasn't surprised he couldn't find anything more than anecdotal evidence because he knows a great deal about the science behind this. So several years ago, he wrote an extensive paper on the subject. It once appeared in Fine Woodworking magazine, but it's available online. I'll link to it below. It turns out your PVC ductwork is not a grain elevator. There is not and has never been a thick cloud of dust inside those ducts. Dust travels through PVC ducts in a stream, not a cloud. And you need a specific type of dust cloud to ignite and cause an explosion. To create the right conditions for ignition, Dr. Cole calculated that a small collector pulling about 250 cubic feet per minute would need to generate 3/4 of a pound of fine dust every minute. Not the wood chips that come from your table saw or your planer. Fine dust, like from a sander. If you're generating 3/4 of a pound of sanding dust every minute, you're using big industrial belt sanders. And if you're using big industrial belt sanders, you're not using a little 250 cubic foot per minute dust collector. You're using a big one that moves a lot more air through much bigger ducts. Greater airflow and bigger ducts require a lot more dust to create a cloud that can ignite. Now we're talking multiple pounds of dust every minute. It becomes all but mathematically impossible. Even if you could create the right dust clouds in your ducts, you couldn't create a large enough spark to ignite it. PVC is an insulator. Electricity passes through it very slowly. When you touch a PVC duct with your finger and you get that little shock, you're not grounding all the static buildup from the whole system. You just sucked off a bit from the area of the spark. Because of this, you can't generate a large spark off PVC, certainly not large enough to ignite the dust inside. Granted, that's an oversimplification of how static works, but Dr. Cole's paper explains it better than I can. They actually test these things in labs, mostly for farming and other industries. Without the perfect set of circumstances, it is incredibly difficult to get a dust cloud to ignite even in a lab. And those circumstances simply do not exist within the PVC ductwork of a small wood shop. Again, I'm not talking about a big grain elevator or an industrial facility. I'm talking about your shop in your garage with your PVC ductwork. Of course, some will still debate this because that's what people do. Remember the big back and forth about how hard it is to start a fire with oily rags and how one well-known YouTuber accused another well-known YouTuber of faking his video tests, and back and forth it went, sending the whole community into a panic as they chose sides and defended their positions to the death. Who knew woodworking could get people so worked up? So, believe whatever you want to believe. Certainly don't take my word for it. I'm no MIT scientist. But if you ever wonder why all my ducts aren't grounded, it's because I have much more pressing matters to keep me up at night, like this. Here's another tool that I've used for many years. In fact, it's one of the best tools I think that I've ever had on this show. So if you haven't seen it before, you're going to want to pay close attention. It's the perfect accessory for resawing boards on the bandsaw. I love it because it's so fast and easy to set up. There's a cam on the bottom that goes into your miter slot. As you angle the tool towards you, it self-secures in that slot. Then you slide the handle forward to apply pressure against your workpiece. I like to push it just in front of the end of the board so it will fold back when I advance the cut. There's a locking lever on top and it's ready to cut. As you can see, the large rubber feather applies firm, even pressure, keeping the body flat against my fence and keeping my cut very consistent. If I'm taking multiple slices from a single board, it is so fast and easy to readjust and keep right on going. You can add an optional 4-inch extension for extra wide boards, and the rubber-like material conforms to variations in shape and thickness, so it's really versatile. They also added a couple of extra features, like a removable base that can be used to square your fence and measure its distance from the blade. There are a lot of gimmicky bandsaw accessories out there, but this one has made a real difference in my shop. We've used it for many resaw projects, and I would not want to be without it. I'll link to the Guide Pro below so you can check it out.